Why do the poor always hate immigrants? Because they are terrified of the newcomers taking the little they have. The elites never hate immigrants, because they can exploit them even more than they exploit the regular, indigenous poor. The elites always make the poor hate the even poorer. Divide and rule. Keep the poor at each other's throats. What is the American dream? It's the dream of poor people to become obscenely wealthy and join the elite. It's not a dream of making the country fair and fine for all the working people, all the poor. The poor hate being poor and don't want to be poor. Historically, the poor have always had a choice, to take down the rich elite or join the rich elite. Jacobinism, socialism and communism were all aimed at ending the elite. The American dream is about emulating the elite and being welcomed into their ranks. The poor traditionally hate the elite and see them as their oppressors. The American poor frequently adore the rich and see them as their exemplars and liberators. The degree of false consciousness that the American elites have instilled in the masses is off the scale. It's one of the greatest psychological feats of all time, to make the slaves love their masters rather than hate them. How is it possible to pull off such a trick? Well, ask the Americans. As John Steinbeck said, socialism never took root in America because the poor see themselves not as an exploited proletariat, but as temporarily embarrassed millionaires. The American poor don't see themselves as poor. They see themselves as rich people who are unaccountably and temporarily short of funds, but will get them soon enough if they copy the rich and do everything they want. They seem to have extreme difficulty accepting the reality of the class system and structural inequality. If you are born poor in the USA, then, just like anywhere else, your chances of ever becoming rich are close to zero. Yet nearly 100% of the American poor believe that they can go on YouTube, or whatever, and be a millionaire in no time at all. Americans practically believe that being poor is a choice that people perversely make, as opposed to being an inescapable consequence of an economic system of predation, where elites prey on the poor, using weaponized money, capital. The rich have the capital, the poor don't. Capitalism is never going to be pro-poor. Duh. You will never rebel against the people you love, the people you aspire to be. In Europe, historically, the poor detested the rich as their oppressors and jailers. In the USA, the rich managed to sell the masses the biggest con of all, that the rich are the good guys, the best guys, and anyone can become rich if they work hard. The American poor lapped it up and totally believed it. That's why the USA has never once had a proper left-wing movement vying for power. America has two plutocratic corporatocracy parties, the Democrats, liberals, and the Republicans, conservatives. It doesn't have a left-wing party. Today's immigration debate is basically about all the same issues that the ancient Romans contended with. Nothing changes. The elites love this debate. Their empire is based on exploiting the poor and making them hate each other rather than hating the rich. What does republic mean? It comes from the Latin res publica, the concern of the people, the people's thing. But the Roman Republic wasn't a real republic any more than the American Republic is. Rome was a dualistic republic, that of the people and the elite, and that doesn't work. It's an innately schismatic system. Civil war is already implied. The elite are predators who prey on the people, and one day, the prey will try to stop the predators, exactly as happened in the French Revolution. To have a true republic, you need a monoculture of the people and the people alone, where everyone is marching in the same direction, with the same aims. Race, sex and sexuality don't matter, but it certainly matters that the different races, different sexes and different sexualities are commonly aligned and obey the general will rather than particular wills. A republic must be based on the general will. It cannot have competing particular wills. The Roman Republic was convulsed by civil war because the elite, serving themselves, had a particular will that was very different from the general will of Rome, serving all the people. The same is true of the American Republic. The American elite do not do what is best for the American people, they do what is best for themselves. They are 100% devoted to their particular will, but pretend to rule on behalf of all. They never do. You would need to be an absolute sucker and fool to imagine that the American president has any interest whatsoever in ruling on behalf of all Americans. He rules on behalf of himself, his family, his friends and cronies, his top donors and supporters, the elites, the corporatocracy, the leading members of his party, the mainstream media, his voters, and so on. The people themselves are on the bottom of the list, or not on the list at all. The first principle of any true republic, such as the Jacobin French Republic of the Revolution, must be that it pursues the general will and specifically takes action against particular wills, especially those of monarchs, nobles and priests, who are only ever interested in their own agendas and are never on the side of the people. The first principle of the American Republic is to uphold the interests of the ruling elite and corporatocracy at all times. Rome had a caste system. The top caste were the patricians and the bottom caste were the plebeians. Modern America has an unwritten caste system. The dynastic elites and the new money elites are the American patrician class. Everyone else is a plebeian. If you're a pleb, you should be seeking the overthrow of the patrician class, and you should solely support plebeian politicians, of which there are 0 in the USA. You can't get into Congress unless you're a patrician or completely backed by the patricians, hence are their pet plebs, like Biden and Obama. Who were the proletarians, the proles? These were the lowest, poorest class of plebs. Rich plebs could hold their own with patricians. Proles definitely couldn't. In 1984, George Orwell spoke of Prolefeed. 85% of his totalitarian, dystopian society were described as proles. Orwell wrote, "No word in the B vocabulary was ideologically neutral. A great many were euphemisms. Such words, for instance, as joy camp, forced labor camp, or Minipax Ministry of Peace, i.e. Ministry of War, meant almost the exact opposite of what they appeared to mean. Some words, on the other hand, displayed a frank and contemptuous understanding of the real nature of oceanic society. An example was Prolefeed, meaning the rubbishy entertainment and spurious news which the party handed out to the masses. The USA, in particular, is the land of Prolefeed, and this dismal content is hailed as amazing and awesome. People such as Mr. Beast are experts in producing Prolefeed. In Marxist theory, there is a group below the proles. They are not slaves, but the lumpenproletariat. Britannica says, lumpenproletariat, German, Rabelproletariat. According to Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto, the lowest stratum of the industrial working class, including also such undesirables as tramps and criminals. The members of the lumpenproletariat, this social scum, said Marx, are not only disinclined to participate in revolutionary activities with their rightful brethren, the proletariat, but also tend to act as the bribed tools of reactionary intrigue. In the USA, the lumpenproletariat have associated themselves with Donald Trump. Trump is drastically different from typical Republican leaders. Although he is a financial patrician from a background of great privilege, he is in terms of his cultural sophistication, or lack of it, a plebeian populist. Trump has single-handedly changed the nature of the Republican Party. He has made it appealing to proles. He is a master of Prolefeed. He loves to be worshipped by proles and lumpenproletariat, rednecks and trailer trash. The Roman Senate was an aristocratic, patrician body. That meant it was practically impossible for a pleb or prole to succeed in Roman society, just as it is near impossible for an American pleb or prole to get anywhere today in America. The game is totally rigged against them by the elite families that rule America, in just the same manner as the elite families that ruled ancient Rome. The Roman Senate was in turn dominated by a cabal of the most elite families of all. S.A. Hanford wrote, "This far-reaching control was largely concentrated in the hands of an inner circle of senators, men who could boast a consul among their direct ancestors. These were the nobiles whom Marius attacked so bitterly. They belonged to a limited number of families. In the century preceding 133 BC, 26 noble families furnished over 3/4 of the consuls elected, and no more than 10 families furnished nearly half of them. What a rigged system! And look at the USA today. The last 60 years or so have been dominated by a tiny number of players with such names as Kennedy, Nixon, Bush, Clinton, Obama, Biden, Trump. And these names will keep popping up. Because this is a totally gamed system. Wake up. If you want a world fit for you and yours, you must stop the world being in the pockets of the rich elites and the dynastic families. You must get rid of these people. That's what the French revolutionaries did. That's what Catiline planned to do. And that's why the Roman elite were so determined to stop him. The elites never go quietly. They are never going to give up their power to help you.